Welcome to Lesson 3A of Dark Hole Elementary, Hardleg Gaming's beginning guide on how to play the Yu-Gi-Oh! Trading card game. I'm Hardleg Joe, and in this lesson I'll be talking about the different kinds of monster effects. Most monster effects fall into one of 5 categories, which unlike the categories of spell traps, are not indicated by any sort of symbol. Instead, the kind of effect is determined by the text used in the effect itself. The most simple effects are ignition effects. Ignition effects are effects which you can choose to activate on your turn if the monster is face up on the field. Most ignition effects have the words "you can" near the beginning of their text to show that you have the option to activate the effect. For example, Cannon Soldier. You contribute 1 monster, inflict 500 damage to your opponent. Similar to ignition effects, but less common, are quick effects. Just as with ignition effects, you can choose when to activate quick effects. The difference is that most quick effects can be activated during your opponent's turn, and oftentimes they can respond to or negate other cards, just as trap cards often do. Most quick effects are easily identified by the text "during your opponent's turn" or "during either player's turn." Some will even outright say "this is a quick effect" in parentheses. For example, Rise Bell the Star Psyker. Once per turn during either player's turn, you can target 1 face-up monster on the field, increase its level by 1. Another important thing to note about quick effects is that they are the only monster effects which have a spell speed of 2, meaning they can chain to other effects. This will make more sense once you watch Lesson 7 on spell speeds and chaining. For now though, let's just continue on to the next kind of effects, trigger effects. Trigger effects are effects that can only activate when a certain condition, or trigger, is met. Most trigger effects will have the words "when" or "if" near the beginning of their text indicate what the trigger is. So if a monster effect starts with "if this card is destroyed," that means the monster has a trigger effect that can only activate when the monster is destroyed. Some trigger effects are optional, using the words "you can" after the trigger to let you know that you can choose to activate the effect at this point. Other trigger effects are mandatory and happen automatically once the trigger conditions are met. For example, Sangan. When this card is sent from the field to the graveyard, add 1 monster with 1500 or less attack from your deck to your hand. Very similar to trigger effects are flip effects. Flip effects always start with the word "flip" in all caps. These effects work exactly like trigger effects, except that the trigger is always when this face-down monster is flipped face-up. For example, Maneater Bug. Flip. Target 1 monster on the field, destroy that target. Playing monsters face down and flipping them up will be covered in Lesson 4, so don't worry about how to flip for now, and instead, let's move on to the 5th and final kind of effect, continuous effects. Unlike the other 4 types of effects, continuous effects never activate and don't start a chain. Rather, they are always active from the moment the monster is properly summoned and remain active until the monster leaves the field. These effects can be the most difficult to determine, as they don't have a set vocabulary associated with them like the other cards do. The main way to identify a continuous effect is simply by the lack of a colon in the text. For example, Jinzo. Trap cards and their effects on the field cannot be activated. Negate all trap cards' effects on the field. Sometimes, the wording on continuous effects can make them look like trigger effects. Since trigger effects activate and continuous effects do not, it's important to be able to tell the difference between them, as there are many traps that can only react when an effect activates. For example, Ancient Gear Soldier. If this card attacks, your opponent cannot activate any spell trap cards until the end of the damage step. This effect seems like a trigger effect because it uses the word "if," but it is actually continuous. It doesn't activate when the monster attacks, rather, it's a quality of his attacks that is always active. The key here is the lack of a colon in the text. Don't worry if you're still a bit confused. Monster effects can be tricky even for seasoned players, especially when one monster has multiple kinds of effects. For now, simply do your best to read the cards carefully, and if there's some confusion, you can always check online for help, or check out my Skill Drain High episode on problem-solving card text. Well, that's it for this lesson of Dark Hole Elementary. From here, proceed on to Lesson 4, where I'll be explaining how to actually play all your different kinds of monsters.